Welcome. In this series of videos, we're going to be talking about introduction to bariatric lifestyle changes. We'll be covering all of the different things that you need to know to be successful for bariatric surgery. The first thing to think about is what it truly means to make a lifestyle change. Many of us have been trapped in the diet mentality and the diet trauma cycle for many years, and thus are here ready for bariatric surgery. Lifestyle changes are something that can take a very long time. Diets are something that are often a quick fix where we're searching for something immediate. There was once a man who sought out a monk asking for guidance on how to achieve enlightenment. The monk said to him, "If you practice diligently every day, in 7 years' time, you can achieve enlightenment." The man asked the monk, "What if I work twice as hard?" The monk replied, "Well, then it will take you 14 years. The man became angry and argued with the monk more and more. The monk said, "Now it will take you 21 years. The moral of this story is that we can't rush things. We can't rush where we need to get to. It's important to stay present and grounded in the moment. And that's what it will take to truly build a lifestyle change. In the next set of videos, we will be talking about taking vitamins, fluid choices and drink choices, fluid separation or separating eating and drinking, exercise, and keeping a food journal for self-accountability. Before you have bariatric surgery, it's important to practice. And one of the things you'll be practicing is taking vitamins. Bariatric vitamins are something that you have to take after bariatric surgery for your health and well-being. Beforehand, we're going to practice with regular vitamins. What you will need is a regular over-the-counter vitamin. This can be anything found at a grocery store or online, either women's or men's or whatever you feel comfortable taking. And additionally, you will use a calcium citrate vitamin. It must specifically be calcium citrate and not another form of calcium, because calcium citrate is the preferred form of calcium that will be absorbed after bariatric surgery. Your ideal vitamin routine should be taking one multivitamin, waiting at least 2 hours, taking a calcium citrate that's about 500 to 600 milligrams, waiting another 2 hours, and then taking a second calcium citrate, about 500 to 600 milligrams. We practice separating these vitamins apart from each other because iron and calcium absorb in the same place in the small intestine. So if we take them both at the same time, they'll fight each other for absorption, and we won't get the maximum benefits from either one. It takes about 2 hours for the vitamins to fully move through your stomach and that part of the small intestine. So we want to make sure that vitamin has fully gone through and had a chance to absorb to its maximum capacity. Hydration is very important before and after bariatric surgery. Not only does it help us regulate our hunger, but it helps flush out toxins through our body when our fat cells break down and release those metabolites into the bloodstream. We recommend drinking at least 64 fluid ounces or about 8 cups of water every single day. When you are drinking, practice sipping slowly. We recommend visualizing a small quarter-cup measuring cup, or at a restaurant, sometimes you're given a small salad dressing cup made of plastic. That's a nice visual for you to keep in your mind when you're drinking so that you don't overfill your stomach pouch. As long as you can keep that in your mind, you won't drink too quickly and cause pain, nausea, or vomiting after surgery. We recommend drinking primarily plain or naturally flavored water. This can be regular tap water, well water, bottled water, or using naturally flavored sweeteners such as fruits, herbs, and other substances. We, however, do not recommend using too many artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners are going to be a very large part of your life after the surgery, so we want to make sure that you don't overdo them. Too many artificial sweeteners is actually toxic to our gut microbiome, which is something that regulates our metabolism and our body's ability to lose weight. The other thing that artificial sweeteners can do is give the body a false idea of sugar. That means that when you are constantly drinking things that have a sweet taste to them, your body can't recognize whether it's actually sugar or it's a non-caloric option. Our bodies were not designed to have sweet tastes constantly running over our taste buds and through our body. When this happens, we actually do see a spike in hormones as if we had eaten sugar originally. Therefore, I recommend trying to keep your artificial sweetener use in beverages to be about 25% of the time, and 75% of the time should be coming from plain natural water or naturally sweetened sources. In addition to staying hydrated with water, there are several different drinks and beverages that you will need to eliminate before you have surgery. We want you to eliminate these before surgery so that you have a chance to practice and feel comfortable with these changes as part of your lifestyle. The first thing you'll need to eliminate is any beverages that have carbonation. This can include sparkling waters, mineral waters, regular sodas, diet sodas. We do find that some people can tolerate small amounts of lightly carbonated beverages, such as certain select natural sodas or kombucha. Other beverages that you will need to eliminate are anything that has calories in them. I would define beverages with calories as having more than 35 calories per serving. This is because if there's that amount of calories present, it's typically coming from sugar. An ongoing theme throughout these videos will be eliminating all extra sugar from your diet. This is because sugar and bariatric surgery don't go very well together, unfortunately. Beverages that have more than 35 calories typically come from sugar. This can include things like fruit juices, other types of juices, sweetened beverages, sweet teas, regular sodas, regular coffee drinks, and other beverages. I recommend drinking things like sugar-free juices, plain unsweetened coffee. Protein shakes are of course the exception because calories will be coming from protein. And of course, tea of all kinds is a great fluid choice to have. Before you have surgery, we also recommend stopping all of your coffee beverages. This is regular and decaf. The reason we have you stop coffee at least 2 to 4 weeks before surgery is due to the acidic nature of the coffee and how caffeine stimulates your stomach to produce more stomach acid. This leads to a very slight irritation in the stomach lining, which normally isn't that big of a deal, but when you're having a big abdominal surgery, we want to make sure that there is no irritation anywhere present. Please stop your coffee 2 to 4 weeks before surgery and plan to wait another 4 weeks after surgery before you start drinking it again. The last thing we ask you to eliminate before surgery is alcohol. This is not a forever thing. This is simply due to the high incidence of alcoholism after bariatric surgery. There are many things that can contribute to this, but it's important to know that 1 out of 5 people after bariatric surgery will develop alcoholism. This is a very serious and important issue. Not only does alcohol contain calories and interfere with our fat metabolism, it's very important for our own health and mental well-being to make sure that our minds and our bodies are free of addiction. After you have bariatric surgery, you will need to separate eating and drinking from each other. That's because your stomach pouch is so small that you will have to choose one or the other, fluids or food, but unfortunately, you won't be able to put both in at the same time. Before you have surgery, make sure you've practiced this with all of your meals. Try to stop drinking any beverages a couple minutes before your meal time. Set your drinks aside, out of your line of sight, or back in the refrigerator. Make sure that you don't consume any liquids while you are eating your meal, and once the meal is finished, please wait a full 30 minutes before you start drinking again. That's because it takes around 30 minutes for your stomach to empty fully of food. If you put fluid on top of your food too quickly, this can lead to vomiting, pain, and general discomfort, all things that we don't want you to experience after bariatric surgery. Exercise is a crucial component in your weight loss journey. People who exercise are more likely to keep their weight off due to the increase in metabolism from muscle mass. We recommend doing 30 minutes of some type of light aerobic exercise, 30 minutes most days of the week. This can include walking, biking, cycling, swimming, or any other light sport that you enjoy. We also recommend doing 2 to 3 days of some type of strength training or muscle building activity. This can include lifting weights, using bands, or using your own body weight. Please make sure to refer to your own doctor about limitations you may have with exercise, or find a personal trainer to help you with proper form. Exercise does not need to be complicated. Please start where you're at. There are many forms of enjoyable exercise out there. You can look on YouTube and find free resources for chair exercises. You can join a water aerobics class. Some people enjoy going out in their yard and gardening. Whatever you pick, it needs to be something that's meaningful and enjoyable to you, because the best form of exercise is the one that you're able to stick with long term. As part of the habits that you develop before surgery, eating very slowly and chewing your food very well is essential for making sure that you don't have any unwanted side effects after surgery. Remember that tiny quarter cup we've been talking about, or that little salad dressing cup? If a large piece of food goes down into that stomach pouch, or an unchewed piece of food, that will lead to pain, discomfort, nausea, and potentially vomiting. Many patients tell us that when they swallow or eat a large chunk of food after surgery, it feels like rocks sitting in their chest. If this happens to you, get up, walk around, and let it pass. Ways that you can slow down eating include using chopsticks if you're not overly familiar with them. That might help slow you down. If you have small children in the house, perhaps you can take their toddler spoons and forks and use those tiny utensils to take small bites. I also recommend setting your utensil down between every bite you take, chewing thoroughly, and swallowing your food before you pick up your next bite. Another tool that people who have successful weight loss use is keeping a food journal. This can be either a written down journal in a notebook, it can be using an Excel spreadsheet, or our personal favorite, which is using a food tracking app. There's one particular food tracking app made just for bariatric patients called Bariatric. We have that linked on our website. Other good food tracking apps include Lose It and MyFitnessPal. When you're keeping a food journal, make sure to write down the food type and the exact portion size. This will allow you to see exactly how many calories, protein, carbohydrates you're consuming with every meal. One thing to keep in mind when tracking your food in a food journal is that sometimes it may bring up feelings of perfectionism or all or nothing. It can be very confronting to see all of our food laid before us, and sometimes this leads to disordered eating tendencies. Just know that when you lay your food down in your food journal, these are simply observations that we should view through a non-judgmental lens. When it comes to setting up a healthy eating routine, consistency is key. We would like you to strive for eating 3 meals and 1 to 2 optional snacks every day. This will look like spacing your meals out 3 to 5 hours apart from each other. 3 to 5 hours is the optimal time to allow your body to process all the food you've eaten and enter a state of fat burning. Sometimes when we eat food too close to one another, our hormones are not able to fully absorb all of that capacity, and it can make weight loss more difficult for someone who has struggled with weight loss in the past. Eating a meal every 3 to 5 hours can look like having breakfast at 7 in the morning, lunch around 11:30 to noon, a snack around 3 to 3:30, and dinner around 6 p.m. at night. This will mean you're finished eating by 7 o'clock and will allow your body a full 12-hour overnight fast before you start eating at 7 o'clock again the next morning. Keep in mind that this is just an example. We all have our own lives and our own schedules. It doesn't mean you have to start eating at 7. Pick your own time to start eating, and we'll call that meal 1. As a reminder from our previous videos, make sure you're chewing all your food very well, as large, unchewed pieces of food going into your stomach will be very painful. Now we'll start moving into what you should be eating. We like using what's called the plate method, which means you learn how to identify different food groups and put them in the correct portion sizes on your plate for optimal health and wellness. We recommend filling half of your plate full of non-starchy vegetables, a quarter of the plate full of a high-quality lean protein, and a quarter of the plate full of a high-fiber carbohydrate choice. On top of all this, you can use 1 to 2 tablespoons of some type of healthy fat. This method of eating will allow you to navigate any situation. As long as you know your food groups and your portion sizes, you can tailor your food to meet your own individual taste preferences. One of my favorite quotes is that the human animal has adapted to and apparently can survive on a variety of different diets, but the Western diet, however you define it, does not seem to be one of them. That means that the way we have started eating in most of Western cultures has not been productive for our health. In fact, it's been promoting chronic illness. That means we need to reassess what we're eating and get closer to nature when we make our food choices. One of the best ways we can do this is identifying if a food ran on the ground or grew in the ground. I like to think about whether my great-grandmother would recognize these foods if they were put in front of her. The closer we get to nature, the healthier that food is. Sometimes that's called processing. You may have heard the term processed foods before, but what does that really mean? If you think about an unprocessed food, that could be a tomato. Once we start cutting it and turning it into tomato sauce, that's our first form of processing. Still not bad, but there might be some added sugar in it. And then finally, the ultimate form of processing is called an ultra-processed food. This is where we end up with ketchup. Another way to think of it is that food that is created in a science lab is an ultra-processed food. That can help you start to identify whether a food is going to be health-promoting or is going to move you farther away from your health goals. Processed foods are associated with many different health disorders, most notably chronic health diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, hypertension. But there are many other things that ultra-processed foods are related to. In Europe, there are many food additives that have been completely banned from the food source due to the insurmountable amount of evidence for that. However, if you are located in the United States, it's important to know that none of these food additives are banned and they are present in your food. This means it's even more important to find foods that are closer to nature. Did it run on the ground? Did it grow in the ground? Food additives are most often found in crackers, cereals, cookies, packaged foods, or brightly colored yogurts. Of note, companies are not required to put extra fructose on the label as added sugar when they add fructose to fruit juices or other fruit beverages. This is because they deem fructose to be a natural source of fruit sugar, and therefore it is not required to mention it as added sugar on the label. Marketing of processed food is designed to make you buy it. Foods like natural, farm fresh, or healthy have no regulations behind them. Companies can say whatever they want to get you to purchase their items. That's why it's so important to be mindful and learn how to read the labels of food before you purchase them. So how do we find balance between this? We learned that processed foods and ultra-processed foods can be very harmful for our health, but it's not realistic to live in our world today and never consume processed foods. I recommend aiming for at least 80% of your food coming from unprocessed, whole foods. Foods that ran on the ground and foods that grew in the ground. And 20% of your foods coming from fun foods. Foods that might be processed, might not provide any nutritional value, but provide fun and variety into your life and allow you to have the flexibility to enjoy your eating. Let's go back to that plate method really quick. If you remember, we talked about filling half of your plate full of good, non-starchy vegetables. This means the vegetables have little to no carbohydrates in them. A quarter of the plate full of a lean, high-quality protein, and a quarter of the plate full of a high-fiber, unprocessed carbohydrate. Protein is one of the most crucial parts of your plate for weight loss before and after surgery. That's because our bodies do not make all of the protein that we need. Everything in your body is made from proteins, and they're made from building blocks called amino acids. We have to consume a lot of these amino acids through food since our body doesn't make them. Therefore, it's very important to make sure that you're getting the right grams of protein per meal, but also all of the complete amino acids. Bariatric surgery nutrition is going to be a little bit different from nutrition from someone who hasn't had surgery. And that means that you need to focus on finding all of your protein sources that have complete amino acid profiles. This is typically going to come from animal products such as meat, pork, beef, low-sugar dairy products, shellfish, seafood, poultry, tofu, and tempeh. You may notice that I didn't mention foods such as beans and nuts. That's because we need to package as much protein and all of those amino acids into the smallest package we can so that you get the most out of your nutrition. When you only have a tiny portion of food in your stomach, we need to make sure that it has the highest concentration of all the amino acids that it can possibly have. Try to aim for at least 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal. This should be about a half cup or 3 to 5 ounces of protein. Carbohydrate choices are also very important for weight loss. A lot of carbohydrate foods are not very well tolerated after bariatric surgery. Therefore, it's in your best interest to start working out a lot of those carbohydrate-based foods in favor of more protein and vegetables. When you do choose a carbohydrate food, try to make sure that it has a higher fiber content in it. This will mean that the food will be digested slower and more likely to be tolerated after bariatric surgery. I recommend aiming for carbohydrate choices that have at least 5 grams of fiber per serving. These can be things like beans, legumes, whole grains, ancient grains, sweet potatoes, and other winter squashes. Try to limit your carbohydrate portion sizes to about a half a cup per meal. This should equal around 15 grams of carbohydrate. And lastly, the largest portion of our plate is the non-starchy vegetables. There's a wide variety of foods that fit into this category, and oftentimes people find they are the pickiest when it comes to these foods. I would print out a list of all of the different vegetables, go through, circle and highlight the ones you like. I bet that you like more than you think. And lastly, as you're enjoying your meal, it's important to follow the principles of eating until satisfaction, or satiety. That means that as you finish your meal, you think to yourself, I could eat more, but I don't need to. There's a delicate balance between feeling full and satisfied and not feeling overstuffed. Try to set up a designated eating area for yourself, someplace that feels special and enjoyable for you. Chewing and digestion can be very important. Sit up straight when you're eating, make sure both feet are flat on the floor, and that you chew well.